Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City, here is Steve Malzberg.
Some of them trying to return to activities that are detrimental to us, absolutely. That's been true of all the prisoners that were released from Guantanamo. There's a certain recidivism rate that takes place. I wouldn't be doing it if I thought that it was contrary to American national security. And we have confidence that we will be in a position to go after them if, in fact, they are engaging in activities that threaten our defenses. But this is what happens at the end of wars.
All right, folks, you know it by now. That's Barack Obama in Poland earlier today. Joining us now is Tom Rogan, columnist for the UK Guardian, and also a contributor to National Review. And you can check him out at TomRoganThinks.com. Hey, Tom.
Hey, good to be with you. It's actually a Daily Telegraph now. Guardian used to be. I've jumped around.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Okay.
No problem.
Okay. Anyway, Daily Telegraph. So let's talk about your reaction to what Barack Obama had to say. Of course, and you just wrote a piece at National Review, Trading with Terrorists. I mean, Barack Obama basically is saying, yeah, you know, there's a recidivism rate, and yeah, they might resort to terror, but you know, we'll get them if they do. I mean, you had them.
Right. It is quite extraordinary. And what's really actually ludicrous about the president saying that is that a number of people that have been released from Guantanamo under this president's watch are believed to have gone back into the fight very strongly and actually to have killed people. So the threat is real, and this kind of flippant way by which the president, Susan Rice, Chuck Hagel have tried to sell this as an easy option devoid of costs, I think speaks to the fact that Afghanistan now is just not a priority for them. They're focused on the domestic agenda, and they just wanted out the picture. They wanted a done deal. And that's sad for strategic reasons, but it's also sad because there are a lot of Americans putting life and limb on the line in Afghanistan, along with American allies. And you know, it's to me, it's aggravating.
But you know, beyond that, beyond this just affecting Afghanistan, you know, and you talk about this in your piece, and others have talked about it. This puts a target on the backs of almost every soldier, wherever they are, and every American who travels overseas now, because now they see up front and in public that the President of the United States openly admits that we'll trade, you know, prisoners. You got a prisoner you want, Sheikh Abdel Rahman. I mean, why not kidnap a bunch of American soldiers or hijack an American plane or something and get Sheikh Rahman released? I mean, he's opened the door.
Let's be absolutely clear about this. Whatever liberals might say, the president in one moment has fundamentally undercut the long-standing U.S. policy of not negotiating with terrorists. It's a simple fact. It is simply non-negotiable. And the real problem here is not just the influence it might have on terrorist groups like Al-Qaeda, but the influence that it will have on other groups around the world, the Lebanese Hezbollah, Iran, very much an actor that enjoys taking people hostage where they believe they can extract concessions from the West. They did it a lot in Iraq, but there President Bush somewhat deterred them by essentially hitting them very, very hard in a number of different ways. And now that's completely changed. And as you say, it's going to create the problem for the CIA, for the State Department, especially that in terms of protecting their people, they're going to have to be looking at a dynamic in which terrorist groups across the world and people hostile to the United States across the world believe there is a much greater potential, you know, benefit that can be gained from kidnapping Americans.
Now, you know, this president all along has said, he was interviewed by ABC News early in his first term with regard to Afghanistan, and he was asked what would victory be, and he says, I don't like to talk about victory. And this president has said, you know, they're a good Taliban and they're a bad Taliban. And we're not, you know, he said the Taliban is not our enemy. Joe Biden has said that. They've all said that. And as you point out in the first line of your piece at National Review, Trading with Terrorists, you say the Taliban killed teachers, hang children, they blow up voters and families out shopping. They do these things to spread a fear that advances their political agenda. By any honest assessment, the Taliban are terrorists. Now, I want to talk about this issue, and I keep bringing this up, and it's not in a flippant way. It's to show the hypocrisy and the contradiction. I mean, when Michelle Obama and Barack Obama addressed Boko Haram, They framed it only in terms of, especially Michelle, when she did the weekly radio address, especially Michelle, that Boko Haram kidnap girls because they don't want girls to go to school. And this is a worldwide problem. And Boko Haram, is preventing girls from getting an education, and it's an outrage. Never mentioning the thousands of people they slaughtered, including slitting boys' throats at a boys' boarding school. But if you accept their framing of that issue, that the war on girls by groups like the Taliban and Boko Haram, well, what does this do for that? How's this going to help girls in Afghanistan?
Well, Steve, you hit the nail on the head. This is the hashtag president in the hashtag foreign policy. I mean, it is patently absurd because, just a few weeks ago we saw the Bring Back Our Girls hashtag, and now he's happily releasing key people from the Taliban. And let's actually think about the people he's releasing. I mean, these are not tier 2 or tier 3 Taliban, which are sometimes you get people who join the Taliban because they want to make an easy buck and just blow up some American soldiers. There's no morality to it, but there are different degrees. These are the senior strategic operations officers. They were in Guantanamo for a reason. They were captured for a reason. Some of them are responsible for killing Shia civilians at a huge scale just because they're Shia civilians. I mean, these really are as bad as it gets. So for the president to release them and say, well, it's manageable because they're in Qatar for a year, it's simply, you see why people in the Defense Department, in the intelligence services, have lost so much respect for the administration, because the flippant way that they try and assert some measure of, they claim credibility and consistency in their foreign policy, it doesn't exist. It as you say, I mean, it is just. I'm exasperated even talking about it because it's so clear-cut and it's so fundamental that, there's nothing else to be said, really.
Well, in your piece, you also talk about how, the United States has talked to terrorists, whether it be the CIA or elsewhere, and that's undeniable in certain instances, but how this is obviously different.
It is obviously different because this takes it to the overt strategic level, where before and presently the CIA will have contacts with certain terrorists and different groups, and it's an undercover opportunity to try and gain information for the United States and to avoid unnecessary conflagrations. What this has done has to put at the very top of U.S. government policy a very new system of understanding with terrorist groups and hostile actors across the world that the United States will negotiate, and that critically, the United States does not have a level that it won't be willing to cross. Again, this is in a diplomatic, intelligence sense, the red line break equivalent to what the president did in Syria. And now that it's open, in terms of terrorist groups, at least from a perception point of view, they'll see this as open season because this is unprecedented. And this deal, that they're going to stay in Qatar, which incidentally sends a lot of money to some very unpleasant people in Syria, the guys who have been crucifying people recently, ISIS. It's simply not tenable for the president to claim that this is a deal that protects American national security interests. It doesn't, and he shouldn't be saying that it does.
No, it's like Chuck Hagel yesterday. Again, to me, this is the administration that'll tell you the grass is blue, the sky's green, and if you don't believe it, there's something wrong with you. Chuck Hagel sat there yesterday and said, oh no, this isn't going to increase the likelihood of kidnappings. No, why should it? Huh?
Right, and you see, everyone's seen on Twitter today, liberals are now up in arms saying, oh, conservatives, it's so terrible what they're saying about this. But I just think that it really speaks to an evolving trend in liberal politics, that the hashtag trend, where Afghanistan, after years of war, thousands of American soldiers having lost their lives, many injured, they just don't care anymore. They've just given up. And it's not about strategy. It's not about actually deciding what's in the best interest of the United States from a national security point of view. It's about deciding what they can try and sell. And they can't even sell it. I mean, Susan Rice, is the example. Once again, her second appearance on the Sunday shows, she just absolutely loses the plot again. They can't sell something that's terrible from the offset.
Yeah, I mean,
right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry to interrupt. I mean, describing the sergeant as a hero. I mean, ignoring everything that we know, ignoring with the feelings of his comrades who served with him. I mean, again, you're right. It's just a storyline that's totally fiction, but they're willing to go out there and tell it. And again, sky's green, grass is blue. You don't agree? There's something wrong with you, not them. Hey, great to talk to you, Tom. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Steve.
All right, Tom Rogan, ladies and gentlemen, here on the Steve Malzberg Show, and TomRoganThinks.com. Check it out. Obviously, he does, and very well too. Oh boy, it is what we are witnessing. I'll just say this again: could you ever have imagined when George W. Bush was president of the United States? Could you ever have imagined in 2001, when we were hit after 9/11, that in 13 years, less than 13 years forward, and there have been steps right along since 08 with Obama, since 09 with Obama, but I mean, let's look at today, that this is where we would be as a nation on issues like this, that this is where we would be? In your wildest nightmares, could you have imagined it? I couldn't. I didn't know it would be this bad. All right, folks, we're coming back. Give Me 5 is next. Don't go away.